So the second match between the Springboks and the All Blacks has just concluded, and what a game it has been again. So close between these two sides. That is now 2 weeks in a row that you can hardly split these two sides. But the South Africans, they get themselves the win, 18 points to 12. New Zealand tryless in this game, which is the first time in quite some time that they haven't crossed that try line in a contest. But South Africa, this not only secures them the Rugby Championship, but it also gives them the Freedom Cup and the longest winning streak up against New Zealand of the professional era. They had to dig deep. They managed to do so. Sia Khaleesi scoring one of the tries, Malcolm Marx scoring the other. And like I mentioned, for New Zealand, no tries on the board. But this first half, it was very close. And in the end, it was 9 points to 3 in favour of New Zealand. No tries scored throughout that first 40 minutes. Neither side really able to find their footing and find their momentum in those early stages. We saw quite a few drop balls, quite a few penalties, and yet again, we saw quite a few yellow cards coming throughout this game. We actually saw 4 in total. 2 for the All Blacks, 1 for Sevu Reece for taking Vili Leroux out in the air, and then the other for Tyrell Lomax near the end of the game for changing its line and taking out Cheslin Colby. For South Africa, they had 2 yellow cards. 1 early on for Jasper Wiese, tackling a man without the ball, and then 1 for Vili Leroux, deliberate knockdown. That one was a little bit controversial, you could say, as if he had caught that ball, that was going to be another try for the Springboks, but sadly just extending one arm rather than getting it in 2 hands, so that is why he got the yellow card. But looking through at some of the stats, these two sides, it was hard to split them. 12 turnovers conceded for both sides, both penalised 13 times. Matthew Carley, the referee, a lot more strict with this game, I would say, than we saw from Andrew Brace. Straight away, you knew that he was going to have control of this game, and I feel like that's what we needed for this contest. Last game, there was a lot that was made of the refereeing. This one, Matthew Carley, a lot more assertive in the decisions that he made it a lot harder to argue with the end result. But 37 defenders beaten for New Zealand in this game, 20 for South Africa, 6 clean breaks for the Springboks, 4 for New Zealand. Now at halftime, South Africa were only tackling at around a 50% success rate. By the end of this game, they made 126 tackles, missing the 37, so they definitely upped their intensity in that second half, got a lot more clinical in the way that they were making tackles, and also some brilliant turnovers, being able to put them on the front foot. New Zealand having to make 161, and by the end of this game, once again, fatigue was kicking in. The reserves, I don't think they put Darry on the field. I don't even think Fletcher Null made his way out there, unless, of course, that was right at the end after Tyrell Lomax had his yellow card. Once again, New Zealand's bench, though, that is what seems to be a big problem for them, plus the fact that they just weren't able to score tries. Sevu Reece, poor game. Mark Delia, poor game. Will Jordan, a little bit controversial, but not a great game at fullback. They have put him out on the wing. He normally does well. He goes to fullback here, and he never really got fully involved in this game, and you wonder whether or not that was one decision that they shouldn't have made. Maybe Will Jordan should have stayed out on the right wing with Bowden at 15. But Cortez Aratama and McKenzie, it seemed like the ball was going relatively smoothly between those two, but just a lot of knock-ons from both of these teams. For the Springboks, though, they had quite a few players who were able to step up. Oxnechet early on looked formidable. Rohan Nokia, he's going to be a star for the Springboks if he keeps on playing like he has throughout this All Blacks versus Springboks series. Partnered with Eben Etzebeth as well. Those two are a handful. Peter Steph-Totoy had a solid game. I think that Grant Williams, it's still going to be debated whether or not he should be in the starting lineup or whether he should come off the bench. I feel like he was relatively effective throughout this contest. Cheslin Colby having some good moments. Moody, probably the player out of the whole Springbok side that you could say had the worst game, but then saying that, he still wasn't too bad. He just missed a few tackles out on his wing, and then there were quite a few handling errors from Pollard as well as Vili Leroux, but still held that structure of the backline for the Springboks up until Sasha made his way onto the field, and then Ngome Zulu just continued what he did last week as well. But looking at the top performers throughout this game, ladies and gentlemen, most running meters for the Springboks did go to Damian Dialende. He did have 56 from his 11 carries and bet 2 defenders. And then from the All Blacks, a decent effort from Geordie Barrett in that number 12 jersey, 48 metres, but the most went to Cody Taylor, who had 71. He had to go off the field for an HIA, but he made his way back out there. He had a phenomenal game across the board, and he'll be pretty disappointed that the All Blacks couldn't get that win. But looking at the numbers for the South Africans, Rua Nokia made 16 tackles and only missed 1. And he's one of the few players who missed 1 or less throughout this contest. Most missed tackles actually was Eben Etzebeth, but he made the second most tackles out of any player, having the 14. For New Zealand, 15 tackles made by Tyrell Lomax, 15 made by Ardie Savia, including getting a turnover. He did not miss a tackle. And then also Taylor had 13. So he put everything into this game, Cody Taylor, but in the end just not quite enough to beat the world champs. And they will keep their spot at number 1 in the overall standings now, the Springboks. They'll be looking forward to those next 2 games up against Argentina, but of course looking forward to a rest week first to then regroup, get ready to go for that first game against Los Pumas. But thank you all very much for tuning into this review. If you did enjoy, of course, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the match, as well as this 2-match series as a whole between these 2 sides. But thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.